Good evening, friends. When the darkness fills our crowded headspace, dulling the pain, blinding the eyes, blocking the throat, what do? We make comics. Let Stephen Amon show you how.
Hi, Chan.
Hi, Steve.
Welcome back to Let's Make Comics.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's us.
It's us. Social distance, Chan.
That's right.
Staying safe.
In Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
The safest place ever.
Staying safe in New York City. The epicenter of the virus.
You know, can't get any better than this.
Yes. We'll talk about everything virus related, and I think our next video. But so there were a few things that I figured we could talk about that you might have more insight on, or things that I don't necessarily feel like I could teach the world. I don't know that you can teach it either, but I figure we could at least have a discussion about a few different topics related to comics in this month of Chan, this merry month of Chan in May.
Chan in May.
Yeah. There should be a clever title, but I don't have one yet.
I'm never good at clever titles.
May Chan.
I just said that. You just stole that.
Spooky Spring.
Spring has spooked.
Yeah, so we're just going to say Spooky Chan month. Yeah. we try. Listen, you can't be clever with everything. Some things just have to be what they are.
That's right.
So, are you ready for your first topic?
Yes. Bring it on.
All right. Our first topic is conventions.
Yay!
We're not talking about coronavirus yet, but if coronavirus hadn't happened, we might have had our first Machina Corps convention in Florida.
Correct. One of my first places I ever went to for a comic book convention, MegaCon.
Was it really?
Yeah, I was 16 years old, and we went there, and I got a nice major migraine from all the sensory stuff, and I had to go home.
Yeah, well, that's kind of from what I know, that's your life story with conventions. You go to these things every year, and you have some sort of mental breakdown because it's just so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, from all the visuals to all the people to all the activities you can be doing at any particular time, it can be a lot.
Yeah. I've only been to a few conventions, like San Diego, New York Comic-Con, Mocha Fest, but I know I'm always kind of itching for, like, at some point I want to go back to my hotel and just, like, nap for a bit and desensitize and then go back into it.
Right. Well, I have to say, like, when I'm actually tabling is easier time for me because I can kind of separate myself from all of the activity and I can just kind of be in my own world and focus on that, which is, you know, from sales to talking to people to anything of that sort. It's easier that way rather than being a person on the floor and trying to talk to publishers, trying to get, like, books published or get more jobs or whatever. It's always nice to just have home base.
It's like people are coming to you, and it's generally a good thing. You want people to come to you because you can make money and you can make new fans and stuff. So, like, every time it happens, it's like actually a good thing that you want to happen, and it's focused on your world and your work. It's not just external stimuli.
Right, right. And I know some people, I mean, I still have some anxiety about having people come over. That's why I always like to be working on a commission or something like that. I'm not trying to avoid anybody, but I'm trying to keep an even keel because, I mean, like, I deal with a host of emotional difficulties in my life. And it's nice to have certain things like crutches and whatnot, like doing artwork and I don't really do the big sales line. What you're supposed to do, you're supposed to like really like just get up out of your chair. I promise you, this is the. If you want to do this right, this is how you do. You get up out of your chair and you say, "Oh, how are you doing?"
Hey, don't look away from me. I know you saw me. Get over here.
Hey, why are you walking away?
You touched the comic. You gotta buy it now.
Never do that. Never do that. But you get up, you like kind of like introduce yourself. You kind of like, oh, have you heard of my book, blah, blah, blah. And then you take the book and you put it in the person's hands. And that also like gets them engaged and it gets them into like actually looking at it instead of being kind of apprehensive or, you know, shy about things. It really like it starts to engage and, you know, people feel a little obligated. But then once they start looking at the work, they're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. What did you say this was about again? It usually happens that way every single time. I mean, those are the ways that you're supposed to do it. Me, I'm just like, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be too passive, but I do like the idea of if you're sitting there drawing, working on a commission, sometimes people come over just to watch you draw. Like, you can get a crowd of people just watching you draw, and you get in these little conversations. That's happened to me. I've had success with it.
Well, if that's happened to you, I'm usually, like, behind a lot of stuff, so it's harder to see what I'm working on. But people will ask, what are you working on? Can I see? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I'll show whatever it is. And
but if you look too off-putting, people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to bother her. She's busy.
Right. It's really hard. And also, if you're the one thing you're not supposed to do at your table, I mean, there's a lot of one things you're not supposed to do at your table. But, like, you're not supposed to eat at your table. But, my God, when are you supposed to be a human being? And, like, most of the people that come over, like, totally understand. They're like, I got you. Don't worry. Artists got to eat. I'm just going to look.
You got to go like, full Cookie Monster.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, it's a hard balance of being a human and dealing with anxieties and trying to be a salesperson. And also, like, sometimes it can be really hard when you're, like, smashed with a bunch of people and you're only by yourself. Or if you're lucky, I have a whole host of friends that come sit behind the table with me and help me pack up prints in bags and boards and, like, dealing with money exchanges and stuff like that. And then also I'm having conversations, and that's always really hard to manage all of these things all at once. It can be a real struggle, but I mean, the more you do it, you get better at it, but it never really gets easy. I'll say that.
So I have a few questions here. I mean, we could probably just talk for an hour and never get to a single one of these questions and still be talking conventions. Sorry. No, it's fine. But so we're kind of talking right now about tabling.
Yes.
So there's like multiple things you could be doing at a convention. You could just go as a fan, but we're kind of focusing more on as a professional or an aspiring professional.
Correct.
So there's tabling, in which case you're generally selling what?
Books, pens, prints. If you're so lucky to have other merchandise like t-shirts and whatnot. But my focus is books, prints, and pens.
Since I've started putting art on my wall, like I would love to just go to a con right now and just look for great artists and see what kind of fan art and prints they're selling. Like, that's something I never really was interested in before, but now that'd be like the thing that I want to do there. Is look for artists selling just art, and I would love to do that now, is to like make I've been doing all that fan art the past year. I would love to just sit at a table and actually sell some prints and stuff like that. It'd be really cool.
Right. I mean, people are always looking for that for their collection, for their walls and whatnot. They're trying to identify themselves with a piece of artwork and something they'll collect or complete a collection of. Say, somebody had a Venture Brothers wall. I'm part of that wall. Like somebody probably has a Star Wars, a Walking Dead, all these things. Like, these are things to consider if you're going to table, like what kind of art you want to sell to people, whether it's something that's more close to you and is part of your brand, people will find you that way. Or if you go with one of my friends' philosophy, Comfort and Adam always say, try to be relevant and try to understand what the pop culture is and have these types of products.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
I struggle with it too, because if I'm not present in my pieces, it comes off as a natural thing.
Yeah.
And people can see through that. Well, usually. I mean, maybe I can see through it, but, But I personally like stuff that's branded to me, stuff that I like, and I just happen to find that niche market, and people get into it.
Like, you go to the con, you're looking for spooky art, you're looking for Sailor Moon stuff.
Or Venture Brothers is like my little niche that I've gone into. Now, the problem is, like, what do we do about copyright? Like, these are characters that belong to other facets. Your Disney, and did I mention Disney?
Yeah, well,
because I think they own everything now, right?
pretty
Fox.
much, yeah. It all trickles up.
Yeah,
eventually,
so I mean,
it's like, 1 degree of Disney. Eventually, right. You hit that Disney ownership.
Right. So I mean, like, if you got Marvel, it's Disney. So it's like, Well, anyways, sometimes you have to be careful, because sometimes people, like, I think Marvel at a time were cracking down on fan artists.
I'm surprised they don't, because these people, like, set up at major conventions like San Diego Comic-Con that Marvel and Disney is pouring all this money into advertising, and it is kind of weird that people. I'm glad they can, but it's kind of weird that they can get away with just selling prints of somebody else's characters.
Correct, and that I don't have a problem with it. Legal will actually, turn a blind eye to a lot of this stuff, because in a way, it's creating community, it's creating brand awareness. And usually the artist that's in the artist alley isn't making, like, millions of dollars off of these prints. They're making a sizable amount that can pay rent for the next 3 months, 4 months, however it goes, like.
Well, in a way, we all work for Disney.
In a way, we all work for Disney. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a weird little market of, like, they know we exist, and sometimes they do come in and crack down on artists depending on who it is, but sometimes they get shit for that in return.
All right,
and also break with the fandom.
So we talked tabling. Now, let's say, I know you said this is what you don't like, but it's another thing that the aspiring young Jedi does at the convention. Approaching editors, going to other professional comics people, will you look at my art, all that stuff. I mean, you've had to do it, right?
Yeah, so I don't mind it so much. It's the crowds at conventions that I mind the most. But, like, going up, I mean, sometimes it's hard, but you have to kind of put your big person's pants on and be like, yeah, I'm awesome. I've got a portfolio, and I'm going to share it with editor, publisher, whomever at a desired, book publisher you're going after. sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not there, sometimes you have to swing around a million times because they're doing a million things.
Yeah.
And always pick your publishers accordingly to your style. Don't just bark up any old tree because you like them. Like, you've got a superhero pitch, you don't belong at Fantagraphics. You know, like, and also make sure your portfolio is clean and puts your best foot forward. Never, ever say, oh, I didn't really like that one, it's not my best. Never, ever say that, even if you feel it. And also never put that in your fucking portfolio in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, I believe you... I know I've had some success. Like, I met Connie, my editor, at a convention. Of course, I was at a table and she came to me. And I met a really seedy Hollywood person. And the guy was like, there's two things that are hot right now. Graphic novels and emo. he's just like the shiestiest guy. And I was like, I feel dirty, but, you know, does he have money? But I'm trying to think... SLG, like, that stuff was from mailing and stuff, but like your God Machine publishing, that would, if you didn't go to a convention, that probably wouldn't have happened, right?
Correct. I mean, I would have probably done the mail-in type thing with my book, but I went to New York Comic Con of 2007. I was pitching the God Machine to several different publishers, and I had a pitch package. Kind of like a comic book with staples and stuff like that, and full color illustrations and black and white pages, and like the rundown, the outline, the character descriptions, all this stuff, all my relevant information, my phone number, my address, my email, all of that. And this is what I gave. Like, I only had 6 of them. I should have had a lot more, but
yeah, jeez. If you're spending all the money to go to the convention, you would think you'd want to have plenty with you.
I was doing some tight budgeting back then.
You're like, I got the plane tickets, but Xeroxes aren't going to happen.
No, I mean...
Could you share this with a different editor?
Well, the thing is, I could show it to somebody, and if they weren't interested, then I didn't give it to them. But who was interested got it. So, like, Archaea, my first publisher for God Machine, absolutely loved it and was like, oh, yeah, we want to publish this. Like, it was almost like instantaneous. I mean, they're like, but can you do it in colored pages? And so I had to go and process to, like, send them the colored pages, and then that's when I got my contract, etc. But your SLG person didn't like me.
Well, that's...
Oh, it's not your person. That's...
It's not... I don't own anybody. You should have done this. If I ran SLG, I would have hired you.
Thank you. I thought I was a good fit, but anyways, one of the things to, like, also note is that building relationships with other artists.
Yes, that was the next thing I was going to ask you about, actually.
Yeah, this is like one of the most important things that you could ever do, is to build your comics family. Because, like, you go to the after parties, you be social, and you start meeting people, and you look at their work, and you exchange your info and all this other stuff. And also, like, on the convention floor, you like, hey, how are you? Like, I know you from online, and you find some kind of common ground of, like, how you know them. Do some courting. Some old-fashioned courting. I mean,
I've done, like, just a few, like, panels in my time, but every time I've had to do a panel where, like, I've been on, you know, they got, like, a table, and you're there with, like, 4 other authors, 5 other authors, and you're sitting there talking, I end up, like, friends to this day with, like, I can't imagine the people that are doing these conventions every week, every year, and constant things, because I've done like a handful of them. You know, I could count them on both hands. But the people that I met at those, I could still talk to online, and if I see them somewhere, it's like, hey, Steve, how you doing? And I could see if you do a lot of conventions, you'd really bring up that network quite a bit.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, usually I don't know my fellow panelists all that well. Some I've been very grateful that I've known these people, and we've had tons of panels together and whatnot. We're in the same circles, but I've done a lot of panels where I was like, who is this person? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm on the panel with the creator of Darkwing Duck.
I wish I
could be that guy's friend.
I did a panel in Chicago, and I was like the young me, like they told me after the fact, because I just bombed. I did terrible, and I felt like disgusting afterwards. But like all the other people on this panel were like big time authors, and there was like me. And they were so just like, some of them were like teachers and public speakers, and they had these big presentations. I just got up and I just kind of mumbled my way through something and sat down. But it was kind of a cool thing, because I met all these like big time authors and saw how they did things, and kind of learned a lot watching and stuff.
Right.
Which is apropos of nothing, but I don't know, I threw that in there.
One of the things that I've always done on panels, because I've never been afraid of them per se, I've always been myself and kind of weird and wacky and odd, and like
panels are so much better. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had to do like a presentation where it's just you for 45 minutes talking nonstop with no questions or anything. Like, panels are great because you don't have to really prepare. You just answer stuff and be witty.
Right. One time I had a panel that was based on just the God Machine and me, but I had a moderator who was asking me questions, which was great. Last personal, actually there's a couple of personal ones, but the last major personal one was with Aaron Fever. And we talked about things like making our own comics and publishing and whatnot. That was at the last Dragon Con. And he fielded a lot of questions. And then I asked him some questions. And like we just like had a good back and forth. And sometimes it helps that if you know the person on the panel as well, you get a sense of things.
Like, we should have a 2-person panel. We would have a good panel.
Oh, I think so.
Be like this. I've got one more thing to talk about for conventions, and then we're out of here because it's already 22 minutes, and we can't give too much of a good thing in one video. We have to tease it out. So the last thing is money in versus money out. That's what people are going to want to know. Like, how much, not necessarily numbers, but compared to how much you're spending to get to the convention versus what you sell there. Because that always, to me, it seems like, wow, like hotel rooms, airplane tickets, food, and all this stuff versus like, you know, selling some comic books. Like, it seems like you'd be losing just money left and right.
Correct. And
correct. The end. That's conventions.
No, absolutely correct. The end. You are correct. There, sometimes you don't know what the convention is going to be like. You don't know the fandom. You don't know if you've got a market there, and you could totally blow about $1,000 to get there and do all the things and make like $400 the entire weekend. Like, it can be really discouraging. But I mean, like, everything about cost and whatnot, you have to be really like cautious about a lot of these things. Like, tickets can be like, plane tickets can be $200, $300. Convention tables $150 to $500. Hotel, that's where it gets kind of rough. But that's when you start finding your friends from either you make friends with your fans, you make friends with your other fellow comics people, and you get together and you squish as many people as you can into one hotel room, and you cut down the costs. Whereas something would have cost like $1,000, now costs like $200, $300 for the weekend. So it's like you get kind of savvy about how to cut costs and how to like really do whatever it is to make it work. But you do have to consider things like, how are you going to get from the airport to the hotel? How you're transporting yourself? Are you taking a taxi or a Lyft or whatever? Answer is yes, because if you don't have time to rent a car, unless you're driving. Now, my friends Comfort and Adam, I'll refer to them a lot. They usually drive to most conventions, and they don't have to worry about suitcase costs and 50 pounds per suitcase. They can just pack it all in, and they don't have to worry about much of anything, from standees to whatever. But when you're traveling, you have to consider how you're going to transport all your things. Can you do it within the limit of 50 pounds a suitcase? And does your airline allow you a free suitcase? Does it allow you to have a free overhead?
And if you're bringing comics and prints and...
Right. Well, I mean, like, that overhead is where you're going to put your most weighted objects, which are the books. That's how you're going to get around some of the things. And also another way of getting around that is you have the books sent directly to your hotel for you to pick up.
Oh, that's smart. That's probably expensive too, though.
I mean, like, that costs too. Like, you have to, like, what, you know, and then you don't know if the books are going to get damaged. You don't know what the situation is. Like, will they actually be delivered on time? Like, these are all the real questions you have to consider when you're doing these conventions. And then, like, what are your goals? Are you actually trying to make money? Are you trying to make fans?
Or are you trying to get your work in front of somebody, try to get yourself a job?
Right. And when you're trying to get yourself a job, I mean, that's a losing sum anyways. But that way you don't have to worry about so many suitcases. You don't have to worry about too much investing in, like, supplies, because prints cost money, pins cost money, everything costs money. But all you have to do is be, like, dress really well. One of my things is dress to impress. Like, they can't forget you. Don't, like, just be a personality, because otherwise you will blend in with every person who's wearing, like, flannel and jeans.
Yeah, well, that works out better for some of us than others. But listen, Chen, it's almost a half hour here. All this convention talk has given me anxiety. I need a rest. So let's break here, and we'll get back together, and we'll talk about coronavirus. No more anxiety. Yay. Thank you very much, Chen. This is great.
Yeah.
Say hi to your fans.
Hi, fans.
There you go, Chen. Yay.
If you like our comic, get a pull box and your local comic shop will make sure you never miss an issue. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. We swear. Till next time, friends.